Hi guys, I hope you've had a good week so far. I will be teaching a lesson today. Today is April 22nd, Wednesday, and I'm going to continue talking about mock interview/interview questions and how we should be answering them. So yesterday, Susie talked to us about two questions. One being, why do you want a job? And two is, what motivates you to work? What motivates you to do a good job? So I'm going to be talking about a couple different questions today, and I will be sharing my screen now. So I'm going to talk about how to answer the questions, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Now we've talked a little bit about both of these words before in ACT, and they're really important not just for an interview, but just in your work life and your life in general to know. So I'm going to keep going. So anticipatory set, before we begin, I'm gonna have us pause this video and think about two things. One, what is something that's difficult for you to do at work? So what's something that's kind of hard or tricky or something maybe you don't feel super comfortable with? Once you come up with that, I wanna know what helps you. So an example for me is something that's kind of hard is me asking for help. Sometimes I feel kind of nervous or awkward and I don't know how to ask for help. So what helps me is being able to ask in different ways. So I don't always have to go use my voice and kind of see that person face to face and ask. I can maybe send an email or a text or a phone call, and that helps me feel more comfortable and it makes it easier for me to ask for help. So if you could please pause now and talk with your team about something that's a little bit tricky for you at work and what helps you. So I hope you guys came up with some good examples of things that are hard or difficult. And more importantly, even what helps you. So our lesson objective for today is to learn how to answer the following interview questions. 1, what are your strengths? And 2, what are your weaknesses? We'll be looking at two main things. Why are these questions important? So yes, second part, I definitely want us to know how to answer them, but I also want us to know why they're important and how they'll help us get a job from the interview. So before we begin, I just want to go over two keywords that we've been using for the past week and a half, interviewer and interviewee. The interviewer is the person asking the questions, and the interviewee is the person listening and then answering. And I know we talked about this last week and we've been talking about it all week, but it's important for us to know the difference. So in this moment, we are pretending we're the interviewee. We're the people responding to the questions. So to begin with our first question, what are your strengths? So strengths, what you are good at doing. So we see this lady, she's looking like a professional, powerful, and then she looks strong. So these are things we're good at. Same kind of thing as skills. Strengths and skills go together. So we want to think about things we are good at doing. So they're important. It's important to talk about and know what our strengths are. Why is it important? Because it tells the interviewer what you're good at. So you're applying for a job. The interviewer wants to know, what is this person, the interviewee, good at? It shows how we'll be valuable, which means how we're going to help the company. What are we going to do that's going to make the company better? That's valuable. And it shows confidence in yourself and your work skills. So being able to go up to someone and saying, hey, I'm really good at this. I could really help this company do this. It shows confidence. It shows that you know what you're talking about and you'll be able to do a good job. Remember, let's keep our strengths related to work during an interview. Because we're there to get a job, we should be talking about things that will help us on that job. So you might have a strength in basketball. but I'm not sure that's going to be related to work. So we need to think about all of our strengths before we go into the interview to decide what's work related and what's not. Yes, it's awesome to be great at basketball, but not super important for an interview and is actually off topic. So, appropriate answers for an interview. My strengths are being part of a team. Awesome strength, knowing you can work with people. I see Chris and Eddie working together to put this table away. That's a great skill. That's a great strength. My strengths are being determined to finish all of my work. So I see Yasin in this picture really taking his time and I'm not going to say the right word. Sorry, Vanessa and Yasin. Stringing the embroidery machine, threading it. He looks determined. He's not going to just give up because it became undone. He's taking his time to fix it, and so he can finish all of his work. That's a strength. My strengths are being able to communicate with coworkers and supervisors. So this is super important. Being able to tell someone what you need help with, maybe where you are in the project. So I see Marissa talking with Jody, the supervisor from ShopKind, going over maybe some inventory or her job tasks, and that's an important skill. Strength. So you can communicate in any way that's best for you. So that can be with your voice, with body language, with your communication device, sign language, gesturing. There's so many ways, but communicating is a strength. My strengths are learning new tools and equipment. So, especially somewhere like a groundskeeping, landscaping site, it's important to be able to learn new tools. So I see Luis over here with his supervisor learning the lawnmower, and Jesus with a leaf blower. And so always being open to trying new tools and equipment is a great strength. My strengths are being flexible with my schedule and job tasks. So this is hard. It can be hard to be flexible and okay with change, but it's a strength in the job because sometimes things change. Sometimes people call out sick, or your meeting time changes, or your job agency changes for the day. I think we've all been really flexible going from ACT in person every day to Zoom and online meetings. So I think we can all say we have that strength now. Might not be our favorite, but we can do it. These gentlemen went to a construction day fair, which was super fun and exciting, but different than their normal schedule. So Jesus, Mac, Adam, and Gary had to be okay with change and being flexible. Inappropriate answers. Answers we do not want to give at a job interview for strengths are being the best at everything I do. I'm perfect. That doesn't look so good. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, which we'll talk about in a minute, but a strength is not being perfect because no one's perfect. And it's okay to not be perfect at everything. So an interviewer wouldn't like that answer, I'm perfect. Not a strength. Inappropriate answer. My strengths are having other people do my work. Nope. This guy doesn't look like he'd be a great worker. My strengths are taking a lot of sick days, but I always call ahead of time. Just because you're calling ahead of time and letting your supervisor know you won't be there doesn't mean it's okay to take a lot of sick days and not show up for work. So this would not be a strength. Just because you're calling doesn't mean it's a strength. So those were our strengths, our positive things we're good at. Now weaknesses, you can see this guy's kind of struggling. Weaknesses are things that are hard for you to do. So there's a ton of different weaknesses out there. And before we get into those, I just want to say weaknesses are okay. They're actually good. Even though they're hard for us, they're important, and every single person has them. So they're not something to feel bad about or ashamed. And it's good that we know what they are and how we can improve them. So why are weaknesses important? Why is it important to talk about them in an interview if you're asked? It's important because it shows you're honest. So like I said, everyone has weaknesses, and being able to own up to that and saying, yeah, I have a weakness is good. And the interviewer wants to see that. Your answer will show what you need help with. So not only is it good to talk about what the weakness is, but what helps you, which is why I wanted us to think in the anticipatory set about something that's hard, but also what helps that. And it helps the interviewers see how you will work on your weakness. So like I said, you can say what it is, but then also how you improve it or what helps you. That shows that you're willing to grow and work well with the company. And just like strengths, remember to keep your weaknesses related about work. I don't know. A weakness of mine is I can't cut hair. I tried, quarantine, didn't work. So that's a weakness, but I'm not applying for a job to be a hairstylist. So that wouldn't be related. I mean, if I wanted to be a hairstylist, then that would be a bad weakness. But I don't, so I wouldn't bring that up. Being honest, but with a positive spin. So we're going to see what that means when we're talking about weaknesses.
What's your biggest weakness? It's one of the most frequently asked interview questions, and it's probably the scariest one of all. It can feel like they're saying, tell us why you're wrong for this job. You might be tempted to put a positive spin on a negative trait, like, I work too hard, but recruiters can see through that. Come prepared with an answer that's honest, that explains why you have that weakness. If you're a salesperson, for instance, your weakness could be, I'm not always quick to close, which doesn't sound great until you explain that the reason you're slow is because you spend time listening to the customer's needs. Salespeople need to be good listeners. If staying organized is a weakness, tell them what you do to stay on track. What apps, tricks, and tools you use to keep focused and hit your deadlines. The great thing about this question is you can show what you're doing to improve. So now that you've got some pointers, practice.
How do I get back? There you go. Okay, so we just watched that video, and she was talking about how you need to be honest with your weakness, but then also follow it with how you want to improve. So a possible weakness you could say is, I don't always understand directions right away, but I use my phone, take notes, and work with my team. I always figure it out. So yes, I was honest. I don't always understand directions right away. It can get confusing for me, but I came up with a solution, what helps me. Using my phone, taking notes, working with a team, and always figuring it out, not giving up. So this is a way to show a weakness, but then to also show a way to help you. Possible weakness. I need extra time to work on projects. So I schedule my job tasks to be finished ahead of time so I have time to make sure everything is correct. So I know that I need extra time, but I figure out a way to schedule it so that I leave myself enough time and I get the job done the right way. So the weakness is needing extra time. The solution is scheduling extra time for myself. Staying organized has been hard for me. So I use a planner and keep track of where I am supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, organizing might be tricky. I might kind of forget things or not do something, but so that doesn't happen, I have a planner and I make sure I write down and keep track of what I need to do. So weaknesses that are not, they're not okay to say in a job interview. Even if you think these in your head, we don't share them with the interviewer because they're not professional. Being lazy, not showing up to work, not wanting to work, refusing to work, taking too long of a lunch break. These 5 examples are almost impossible to make positive. So I can't say I'm lazy, but it doesn't work and it doesn't sound good. So we went over strengths and weaknesses, why they're important, and how we should be answering them. So keeping that in mind, I would love for us to answer 3 questions on our blog today, please. Number 1, why does an interviewer want to know your strengths? Why is it important? Why does an interviewer want to know your weaknesses? And then give me an example of one of your strengths or weaknesses. Now, strengths and weaknesses are different for everybody. One of my strengths might not be someone else's, and one of my weaknesses might not be somebody else's, and that's okay. You can pick which one you want to answer. I would love to hear the weaknesses though, because I think they're a little more tricky to talk about. But up to you, and I look forward to reading them. Thank you guys.